Welcome to another Pops Deck Tech with Dr. Magic. I'm here today with Ryan Andryshak. Ryan is a local player from Elmira and has brought to us his deck. It's a blue twist on the blue-black Aristocrats we saw at the Pro Tour. It's Esper Aristocrats. Ryan, thanks for bringing the deck down and showing it to us. Glad to have you here. We're going to start with the creatures, talk about what creatures are in here and what function they serve in the deck.
Sure. Most of the creatures are very similar base to what Calcana was playing at the Pro Tour. If you notice, the creatures don't have any white in them, so the Esper is a little misleading until you get to the spells.
Understood, yep.
The main creature, the featured guy is Nantuko Husk. Stats, as they said in the Pro Tour deck tech, a little underwhelming at 2/2 for 3 mana, but he synergizes with every other creature in the deck, just in the fact that every creature is food for him.
The creature is food, sure. Good way to put it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of little synergies that really don't become apparent until you really get into it. But he is the core of the deck, and a lot of times just the threat of the Nantuko prevents people from attacking and tapping out. It really makes people worried about any manifests or anything that could be coming out of your hand. I mean, even one card in your hand can potentially be 8 or 10 unblockable for a couple mana.
Sure. Yeah, and that's you need a sack outlet to make this work. So much of your stuff depends on the ability for you to kill a creature when you want to kill a creature.
Yep.
And Nantuko Husk obviously serves that role very, very well, and fits right into the Zulaport Cutthroat with the drain.
Absolutely. Yeah, 2 mana. The other important thing about the Nantuko Husk is actually at 3 mana, it fits your curve a lot better than if it were a different mana cost. So it's very efficient and kind of terrifying to go Cutthroat on turn 2, Husk on turn 3, and from there it's just a snowball that just keeps rolling into damage and life gain. Gotcha.
Move to Lily, Planeswalker from Origins.
Yep.
Whenever another creature dies, boy, that doesn't seem like she's hard to flip.
No, not at all. The best thing, and we'll get to it later, but I won 2 games off having her be the one that was manifest, and that is brutal. But just she really helps early game kind of stabilize against things like a Tarka Red. The life gain is massive. It's important with a lot of these creatures. They have a very specific function in the deck. She's one of the ones to not get overly concerned with having to turn her into a Planeswalker. That 2 life is a big swing when you're trying to survive, become immense. And she's just, if you can flip her, the turn she comes out though, she takes over the game. Having to choose between attacking Lily or trying to kill a Nantuko is a bad choice either way.
Sure, and then she just adds to the bring some creatures back, adds to the recursion, feed him to the Husk.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's got a big appetite there. Whirler Rogue serves a couple of purposes, right? You were telling me a couple of tricks with her.
Yeah, I guess from what I understand about the origins of this deck, it was, I believe it was Sam Black kind of saw that interaction between Whirler Rogue making things unblockable and the Nantuko Husk. If you can curve a Husk into a Whirler Rogue on turn 4, you tap your artifacts, the Husk is unblockable, you can sack all 3, and you got 8 unblockable on turn 4. And that's not a terrible place to be.
No, and if you hit the cut forward on 2, now we're 8, and we're draining another 3.
Yep.
So 11. Yeah, that's a pretty solid turn 4.
It's not terrible.
No, I can't see. And because the tap ability is on the Whirler Rogue, there's no summoning sickness on
exactly.
that one. That's great.
That's huge, and it's really helpful that they summon flyers too. Being able to deal with something. Actually, what I ran into last night was a blue flyers deck, and just playing it for the Thopters is extremely valuable because that's one of your weaker points is dealing with flying creatures.
Just a couple of bodies to throw in the way.
Exactly.
All right, Sidisi's Faithful, not a card I've seen a lot of, but
no, limited all-star, but it puts in an unbelievable amount of work. I was able to win off a 1-land hand keep by just having 2 Faithfuls in the hand and just basically bouncing the Den Protector 2 or 3 times and surviving till you can find more lands. If you can actually curve and have a Sidisi's Faithful on turn 5, you can bounce your Whirler Rogue back and get 4 Thopters out.
Oh God.
The plays with Faithful are absolutely ridiculous. It's a fantastic kind of a tempo play. It's kind of what it's the equivalent of like a Harbinger of the Tides, but just even better. Most of the time, your exploit will drain a life. Sometimes you'll exploit your Hangarback. You can tap your Hangarback with an open mana, get him up another counter, exploit him, get your Thopters, get the sack engine rolling, and at 1 mana, it's just ridiculous. It blocks great. It's honestly might be your best creature against a Tarka Red.
Sure. Yeah, that's a big backside to get through.
Yeah.
Yeah, the exploit on the Hangarback seems good when everything else you want to do is it's another outlet for you to kill your own stuff.
Yes.
Hangarback Walker, we've discussed it before in deck techs, just an absolute all-star in Standard.
Yes.
You know, you're either playing it or you have a way to deal with it, and the fact that you could sack it on will.
Yes.
And get what you want, even if you're playing it on 2 and sacking it, it's 2 bodies for the price of 1. That's great. Sultai Emissary, same thing.
Yes.
Just off the manifest.
The Emissary is one of the big out-of-nowhere win cards. When you manifest something like a Liliana, or you manifest... one time I kind of slow-played. I manifested a Husk, and I didn't flip it for 2 or 3 more turns. They thought it must have been a land or something, and then all of a sudden it was just flip the Husk and win like 18 points on damage out of nowhere. The plays that you get with it, and the ability to manifest the excess lands, that you'll see later with the lands. This deck almost runs a modern amount of lands in terms of it's a very low curve, so anything beyond 4, maybe 5, you'd rather manifest than have them in your hand. So it's unbelievable. It's a workhorse.
Sure. And the last card we have here, Grim Haruspex, has the morph ability, which is, you know, again, you're playing games with your manifests, but has whenever another Taunt token creature you control dies, draw a card. We've already talked about repeatedly, you know, killing our own stuff. So, you know, Grim Haruspex seems like a great way just to keep the hand full, and not a bad body on it for 3 mana either. So
yeah, game 1, playing it as a morph is actually pretty incredible. If no one's played the deck before, most of the people, I kind of heard them muttering to themselves, thinking it was what is it, Sky Dancer, the 2/1 that counters a spell, because they see the blue and they don't think, or Stratus Walker, yeah, they don't see Grim Haruspex too much, and when you are in the middle of a combat phase, you declare your blockers and you morph him, and you end up drawing 5 or 6 cards for 1 mana. It's not a bad place to be.
No, good combat tricks there. So, you know, everything a good Aristocrats deck needs is to, you know, take advantage of the commoners, and you know, that certainly steps in there. Gotta make some money off of their work. So, and Haruspex definitely puts in some. Well, that's a great creature base there. Looks like we're at 16, 24, just 31 creatures. So very heavy creature deck in a very heavy creature environment. Those look like they're going to fit the bill. Let's move on and talk about the spells. Alright, we've moved on to the spells here. A lot of creatures, so not a lot of spells. Tell us what you've chosen and why.
Murdurous Cut's pretty simple. It is the best removal in the format when you've got the fetches that you'll see later. Your graveyard fills up real fast. You're killing your own stuff on purpose.
Sure.
And your graveyard fills up incredibly fast, and so being able to kill anything for 1 mana, it's, you know, having a better Doomblade is not a bad place to be. No,
not a bit. And now we see the white come in. So this is where we get Esper from. Two little spicy pieces of tech here that obviously we didn't see on the Pro Tour. Talk about these and what they've done for you.
Sure. Yeah. A lot of times when you see 2 and 2 of a similar spell, that's someone testing it out. But I've actually found that this is kind of the optimal way to run it.
Okay.
Rally is, you know, if you haven't played it by now, you're going to be in for a rude surprise the first time you see it. It brings back pretty much whatever you want. You know, but by the time you get up to 5 mana, you can bring back anything in this deck, with the exception of Whirler Rogue, and bringing stuff out of nowhere, sacking them all immediately, doing all the damage, or even, you know, at instant speed, you know, once blockers are declared, bring back a couple of cutthroats that have been killed earlier, so everything that's about to die triggers, you know, kind of in the reverse way.
Sure.
It's just a brutally good card when you're going to be immediately sacking everything. Plus, they all go back to the graveyard when they're sacked, so you can just do it again because everything doesn't get exiled for the second part of the ability.
That is great. And so some shenanigans on offense and defense with Rally.
Yeah, Secure the Waste is more of an option for the end of their turn because Rally exiles on your next upkeep. Secure is kind of great because if you're holding up mana for something that doesn't happen, maybe a Murdurous Cut, and they don't play the creature you're thinking, like turn 4 and you don't see the Siege Rhino, then you can Secure the Waste for 3, and going into your next turn you've got 3 1/1s to sack, or you get 3 blockers out of nowhere to trigger even more with your Cutthroat.
Yep.
It's pretty incredible.
Yep, Secure the Waste is definitely an underrated card. Looks like it gets put to pretty good use here.
Yes.
That's it for the spells. We're going to move on to the land base now. Alright, so here we see the land base. So we've got 6 basic swamps, 2 basic islands, and a plains. You get bonus points because they all have the same art.
Thank you very much.
And you get additional bonus points for having a Noah Bradley plains.
Yes.
Very good. Bunch of fetch lands. I mean, I think right now in Standard, when Khans finally rotates, we're all in for a rude awakening because we think mana fixing's so easy. But here you go, 4 deltas, 4 strands.
Yep.
Feeds that cut you were talking about.
Absolutely.
And then of course, the battle lands have made life in a multicolored deck so easy. 3 Sunken Hollows, 2 Prairie streams. Seems like you said you got a pretty slow curve, or pretty short curve. Looks like that'll get you there in a hurry. The one thing we don't see often is a Rogue's Passage, though.
Yeah, the Pro Tour list subbed that out at kind of a flex spot. Subbed it out for Foundry of the Consoles. He was saying it's kind of a nice mana sink, gives you more sack fodder. I found that late in the game, having 2 Thopters is good, and it's there's a couple times that I'd like to have a few more flyers, potentially for blocking, but the ability to just kind of slow play a Rogue's Passage, and then when they kill your 1 out of the 2 Thopters you made with your Whirler Rogue, and they're not expecting unblockable, and you just drop the Rogue's Passage, it wins a crazy amount of games just out of nowhere, and it's repeatable once per turn. If you see 1 Whirler Rogue and 1 Rogue's Passage, the Rogue's going to give you unblockable just until the Thopters die, but that passage is once per turn. Whatever you have on the board, it puts them in an impossible situation. You're once per turn making your Husk unblockable, and or you're at least threatening to, and that really messes with their ability to make decisions.
Yep, hope they have a kill spell.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Ryan, thank you for stopping by and showing us this list. I think it's a really unique take on a really cool deck. If you guys are looking for an Esper deck that's not Esper Control or Esper Dragons to play in the new Standard, this one looks like a lot of fun. Lots of good combos, and Aristocrats is always a fan favorite, right?
Super fun to play.
Well, you guys be looking for this and other decks that are Tier 1 in the Midwest at Pops, Friday nights, 6 o'clock. Come and see us.